Let me know when you are able to see.
Yeah, we can see.
Yep. So till today we have seen the three kinds of techniques, right? Where we can able to transfer the data from the client to the server. So first one is the hidden parameters. So second one is the cookies technique. And third one is the session. And session rewriting technique. Fourth one is. So as we know, hidden parameters is nothing but it is we are going to send the response back to the client with the hidden values from the first request, so that we can able to carry forward the first request details to the second request. That's the reason we are using the hidden parameter technique. And then cookies reduce the little bit of traffic between the client and the server. Nothing but whenever it is required, server is going to store those cookies in the client server, and whenever it is required, it is going to get all those cookies and read it. That's the way it is going to reduce the traffic in between the server and client. And then third one is a session is completely related to the server memory area. Nothing but whenever we for example we send the first request, if it is required, then it is going to store the values of the first request values into the session object. So whenever it is required, this it is going to access from the session object in the server only. Okay, so cookies is the one it's going to store in the browser, session is the one which is stored in the server side. And last one, session rewriting technique. So what is this session rewriting technique? Consider as a case we're using this third technique only, nothing but we're trying to store all the data in a server side only. We're not trying to store any data in a client side. Okay, consider as a case, in general, if we hit the first request, what happens? We hit the first request, what happens? We are one session ID will be stored in our browser, right? So next time onwards, okay, next time onwards, that particular session ID is, I mean, how it is going to store? It is going to store as a cookie only in our browser, right? So next time onwards, we are sending this value also. I mean, we are sending this session ID value also along with the request object. So that's the way it is going to recognize who is like, requesting for me like that. Consider as a case, in the client browser side, they disable the cookies. Okay, consider as a case in the client, I mean browser side, they disable the cookies, so there is no way to store the cookies in the browser. Okay, there is no way to store the cookies in the browser. Then if that is the case, okay, all my data is stored in the server session object only, no, there is no problem. At least I need to store my session object cookie in my browser. If that is not possible, then it won't be possible to send that back to the server, right? So at least I can get a chance to store the session ID in my browser. No, there they come up with a separate solution called session rewriting technique. Means send that particular session ID in a URL. Okay, so how to do that? Okay, so this is like looks like this. I will show you. See, this is the first page, registered JSP, and as usual username and password and submit button are there. But if you observe clearly at here, I have added some expression piece of code. This is called as expression, right? In this expression have added some piece of code, nothing but response dot encode URL. HTTP servlet response is having one method called encode URL method. Nothing but instead of storing that particular cookie ID and value in a browser, send it in a URL. So make a transfer, I mean make a interaction between the browser and server by using URL. Okay, instead of using the cookie. Okay, so whenever I use this, then the request of this data will be sent back to this one by using encode URL technique. Okay, let us see how it works. Let me try to start the server. Run on server, click on finish. Let me close all the tabs and open it once again. Server register.jsp. Let me try to click on enter. Now let me try to add some username, password. Yes, when I clicked on the submit, okay, when I clicked on the submit, I got the second is nothing but register one.jsp. Along with that one, see how my first request is sent. I mean, with the response, how it came back.
With session ID.
Exactly. Instead of storing the particular session ID and value in a cookie, they were try to send in a URL itself. Okay, they are trying to append to the URL, existing URL, so that there is no need to go for a cookies. So that's what their intention is. In any case, if the browser disables the cookies also, okay, we have to make an interaction with the browser. So the other technique instead of cookies is using URL redirecting technique. Okay, so for that, what we need to do? Okay, right now I am in this particular page. Okay, right now I am in this particular page. Whenever I'm trying to click on submit, okay, whenever I'm trying to click on the submit, I need to get the response from the server with the register1.jsp file. Okay, how I am asking? Send the response like this. Along with that one, please append the session ID also to the URL, so that see, when I fill these details, oops, sorry. So that when I fill these details and click on submit, okay, it is going to read the session ID from the URL,
URL.
yeah, instead of from the cookies, as because we are using the response encode URL. First it is going to check for the cookies. If it is not been available in the cookies, then it will go and check in the URL. If this value JSession ID key is available, then it is going to read that particular value. Okay, this is the way. Remaining details, how we are storing remaining details, we are trying to store in a session only, right? It means everything is stored in the server only. No need to worry about the cookies here. Okay, no need to worry about the cookies. Only the thing that we need to worry about it here is like session ID, because session ID is the one which is going to be stored in the browser memory. Okay, but in any case, if he disabled the cookies also, then also we can able to make an interaction by using this response.encode URL. Okay, so that's the reason nowadays if you observe projects, most of the cases they are going to use this kind of a technique only. Okay, they don't want to take a chance from the browser, I mean from the user. Maybe some users they disabled or they blocked some of the sites, so that cookies may not be get stored in their browsers, so they don't want to take a chance from the users. So that's the reason most of the cases nowadays in the project they are going to use this kind of technique only. Means what is the difference? Instead of directly placing this particular JSP file in the action tag, okay, in the action attribute, we are trying to place it by using response.encode URL. Okay, yep, got it, or any doubts, Vijay, Yari?
The
It's
response
clear.
that encode, uh,
Yeah, Vijay.
yeah, the response that encode URL we are putting an expression tag.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Why you are putting expression tag, right? Your doubt is
Correct.
okay. Okay, see here, tell me where all these lines are kept. This is a JSP file, right?
Yeah,
See, tell me, last class only you told me where all these ones are going to kept. I mean,
on the
HTML
browser,
head. No, 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 no. I mean, in the servlet, I'm saying. Anyway, JSP is going to get converted into a
in the service method,
in the service method, then out dot or write method.
outer right method.
See, if you see clearly, all these are kept under out dot write method only. Then
Right.
if I put without this, what happens? Okay, this one is also being kept under out.write method. No, I don't want to make like that because I want to put in expression tags so that it will like you know about the expression tags, right?
Value it will be
Yes,
value.
exactly. Yeah. Okay, value we are going to put under the expression tag only, right? So that's
Oh,
the way.
that method will return something.
Yes, exactly, because that's the way I'm trying to tell to the servlet. Okay, this is not like a out.write method. Don't put just blindly. Okay, this is something else. You need to do something else with this. So that's why I'm trying to put under expression tag so that whenever we call this, okay, whenever we call this, instead of this place, it is going to put the URL along with that one. It is going to append the session ID also.
Okay.
Okay, got the point, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we are trying to use it as like expression tag here. Okay, any more doubts?
Yeah.
Yep, great. Okay, then we'll move to the next concept. Okay, we'll see there is a interface called request dispatcher. Okay, there is an API called request dispatcher. Okay, in this request dispatcher, there are like two methods present, include and forward. Okay, so while including we need to pass the two values, that is the request and response. Along with that one, for forward also we need to pass the two values, request and response. Okay, so let us see how all these ones work. First, my first doubt is how to get a request dispatcher object. Okay, how to get a request dispatcher object. Okay, as usual we're having 9 implicit objects been available by default, right? Okay, in this just let me try to concentrate on the request object only. Okay, let us see the HTTP servlet request. So this is the HTTP servlet request. Okay, do we have any method to get a request dispatcher object at here? Let us see. See, under servlet request, this is super interface, right? Under servlet request, there is a method called get request dispatcher. Means request dot get request dispatcher is going to return the request dispatcher object for me. Okay, now let me try to do like that. See here, I have taken one servlet called S1. Okay, this S1 servlet is extending HTTP servlet so that I made this as a servlet now. Next, I'm implementing the service method. Okay, in this service method, I'm trying to pass the request and response as usual. And here, by using the print writer, I'm trying to print some text message to the browser. Then we'll come to the next part. Request dispatcher is an interface. For this interface, I'm trying to give some reference. Okay, for this reference. Now I need the request dispatcher object. Now I need the request dispatcher object. So how to get that? Request dispatcher object is available with a request. Okay, request dispatcher object is available with the request object. So just call the request.get request dispatcher and send some value. Okay, and send some value to it. Then I want to include the next file also. Okay, I want to include the next file also. That's why I'm using already nothing but reference here. Okay, reference already dot include. I'm passing the request and response to this one. As usual, when you see the method at here, when I'm calling the include, I need to pass the current request and response objects, right? So that's what I'm trying to do it here. Okay, I'm passing the request response for the include methods. Okay, now let us try to see how this application works. See, if you observe clearly, I am using the servlet at here, right? S1 servlet at here. If that is the case, then I need to give the proper path, right? So this is the S1 servlet. This is servlet name. Let me come back to servlet mapping. So I need to give the path of /S1 is the path for the servlet, right? Now go back here. So this is the path, right? Localhost 8081. Then test is my context path, nothing but project name. S1 is the path. That's what I have given in web.xml. Now just try to click on enter. Oh, I got the two pages. I mean two text messages here. Output of S1 servlet and output of S2 servlet. So let us come back and see here what is this output of S1 and output of S2. This is the S1 servlet that I know. So as per the first servlet, output of S1 servlet is getting displayed as expected only. Then where the S2, I mean output of S2 is coming. See here, I'm trying to give some path to this request dispatcher object. While calling the request.getRequestDispatcher, I'm giving some path to it as an input here, right? So what is this /S2? Let us go and see it here. Is this matching?
Mapping name.
Yes, exactly. We are mapping to a S2, means it is going to call S2 servlet, right?
Yep.
Now see here in the S2 servlet, just calling the service method. Inside the service method, I'm trying to display one message. So this is the way to include the two servlets. Okay. In the last class, we have seen something directives. As part of the directives, there is an include, right?
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
give me a minute. So internally, it is going to work as like this. Actually, as part of the directives, we just blindly gives as like this. We don't know internal details. Include file is equal to some 2.jsp, whatever the JSP file that you want to include. There we are going to give it as like this, right? So actually internally how it works is like this. First it's going to get the request dispatcher object. Okay, sorry. First it is going to include the request dispatcher object, and from that it is going to call the method in request dispatcher called include method. Okay, while calling the include method, it is trying to call the, I mean it is going to pass the request and response. Means,
Why we need to pass request and response?
yes, exactly, good question. See here, better I will take one example as like this. Okay, so see here, consider this is a client browser. Okay, this is a client browser part, and when I'm entering some data and click on submit, my request is passing as like this through network. Okay, once it is reached the server, it's going to convert as a request object. Okay, after that this one is going to hit the particular servlet, right? Means nothing but it is going to call the service method. While calling the service method, it is going to pass the request as well as response objects also. These request and response objects are being prepared by a web container only. Okay, we are not going to prepare. Okay, okay, these request, I mean this is nothing but this request whichever we got it here, request, along with it you prepare the response object and given it to the S1 servlet service method. Once it reached, it is going to read and it is going to do some processing. Like, you know, for example, see our request here. So once the service method is reached, it is going to display some message at here. Till here it is okay, right? Then it is going to call the request dispatcher object, and then it's trying to call the include method. Then what happens? First, by using request dispatcher, it is going to figure out the path, okay, relative path, and then whenever we call the include method, okay, whenever we call the include method, okay, it is going to call the S2 servlet. Okay, it is going to call the S2 servlet, and it is going to pass this same request and response objects to this S2 servlet. Okay, and then in S2 servlet there is a service method. Okay, and for this service method we are going to pass the same request and response which we got from the first servlet request response. We are trying to pass the same, okay, to service method of the second servlet request and response. And then here in the second service method just we're trying to display some message, right? And after that, okay, after that that response will be again sent back to the previous one, which is nothing but is going to send back the both request and response back to this one, and from here only the response will be sent back to the browser. So that is the reason, if you clearly observe it here, why we were able to see both the both the messages at here, okay, while including, okay, because this is actually as part of the browser's perspective, this is only one request, okay, but internally actually I'm handling two servlets. Okay, if I want to, like, you know, make an interaction with the other servlet by using the same request and response, is called as a servlet chaining. Okay, it's called as a servlet chaining. Okay, so while calling the include method, we are going to pass the request and response so that it will be available in the same response. Okay, that is the reason. So it will be available in the same response. So that is the reason when this response is sent back, this response is having the first servlet data, along with that one it is having the second servlet data. That is the reason when we send the response back to the browser, I can able to see two servlet responses. This is the first servlet response, this is the second servlet response. Okay, so that is the reason we are sending the request and response objects at here. Got an idea, Vijay?
Yeah.
Yep. Now we'll do another thing. Okay, I will use,
I,
yeah, Vijay.
um, I have a question. Like,
Mm-hmm.
normally when you use in the JSPs, we are using action and attribute, right, to
Yes.
send the URL to the other JSPs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that action is the action like element is used for the JSPs, and this request dispatcher used for the servlets.
Actually, to simplify the developer's work, we are using the JSP action tags include and forward there. Okay.
Internally, it uses
It
the
is
same.
exactly. See, anyone can tell the JSP, but internally how it works is the important at here, right?
Okay, I got it.
So that's the reason. Okay, that's the reason I'm trying to cover from the depth. I mean, from the servlet part. Yeah, come on, those are like JSP tags. Just if you remember, we can able to work out on those. Right.
Yeah,
See,
internally it uses the same concept.
exactly. Internally, it is going to use this like this. It is going to code it as like this. Okay. And then we'll see another example called
And
forward. Yeah.
is there any way that we can pass the URL from servlet to the JSP?
Yes, yes, it is possible. I will show you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, in the next class, I will show you. Just we have other concept. We'll cover those two also. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. There is another method called forward. Okay, a minute please. Okay, now let us see how this forward will works. Let me try to stop the server and start once again. Run as, run on server, click on finish. Okay, now come back to the browser. This time I'm trying to hit the same URL on S1. Okay, what happened now? What happened now?
Only one.
Yes, it is trying to send the second servlet response. What about the first servlet response? It's gone, right? So whenever you use the include method at here, okay, whenever you use the include method at here, it is going to include all the, I mean, current request and the second servlet request, like that is going to include all the responses. Okay, when you put the forward, then the request and response objects will be forwarded to the second servlet. Okay, second servlet, and it is going to display these values. I mean, it is going to do the processing, whatever it is there is second servlet. And see here, instead of sending response back to the first servlet, what happens is, okay, instead of sending as like this, it is going to send the response directly back to the browser. It don't even care about the first servlet. Okay, when you use the forward method. Okay, when you use the include method, it is like a step-by-step process. Include this page, come back to the second servlet, and again, if this is done, we'll come back to the first servlet. From the first servlet, we'll come back to the browser. That is what happens in case of the include. In case of the forward, what happens? Just it will forward this request and response to the second servlet. Okay, and it just forgets about the first servlet. That's it. It just skips the first servlet. Okay, and then it is going to use the service method, whatever it is there, just it is trying to take those processing and then will go back to the browser. That's it. It don't even go back to the first servlet. Okay, so that's the reason in case of the forward, okay, in case of the forward, if you use the forward, this particular processing data may not be seen in a browser, or like, it is going to skip this particular page. It will just consider only the second servlet. So in what occasions we are going to use the request, I mean, include and forward? In general, um, if you see any applications, it is a combination of footer, header, main, and left navigation, actually to speak. Okay, so whenever you're using the include method, okay, then at that time, I mean, so include, when exactly include method will be used is like, whenever there is a requirement, like, I need to include all the different parts, like, header, footer, left navigation, main part. In those cases, we are going to use the include method. And one minute please. And the forward method is the one used, like, whenever you're trying to display some extra pop-up message. okay, where it won't even require these footers, headers and all, just a small pop-up, extra pop-up is required, and there into whatever the data that you want to display. Okay, in those cases we can able to use the forward method. Okay, any doubts on this include and forward?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, Vijay.
Yeah. Do we have forward element in JSP? Like we have include?
Yes, there is an action tag called forward.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, now so we have seen how to get the request dispatcher object by using request object only, right? Inside the request there is a method called get request dispatcher. By using this only I can able to get the request dispatcher object. Okay, do we have any other way to get a request dispatcher object at here? Yes, there is, by using servlet context object. Tell me how to get a servlet context object, if you remember.
It has global.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
yes. Servlet context is a global object where all the servlets can use these values. But how to get a servlet context object at here?
Get this request dot get servlet context.
No, not in request. We come across one servlet called generic servlet. Remember? In the
Yes.
generic servlet,
Got it.
see, I will show you. Deputy. Let us see the generic servlet. Okay. Do we have any method called get servlet context at here?
Yeah.
Yes. Now come back to the program. HTTP servlet implements which servlet?
Servlet interface.
No, not directly, right? Not directly. So that's what I told you in starting classes, na? First servlet interface.
And
Okay.
generic servlet.
Exactly. And then HTTP servlet. So this is an interface, this is an abstract class, and this is also abstract class. Okay. Servlet interface, which is implemented by a generic servlet. Okay. Now HTTP servlet is the one which is going to implement the generic servlet at here. So
Generic servlet. Yeah.
if you see in Java, there is an inheritance, right? Inheriting the properties and methods, right? Means whenever you're using the HTTP servlet, are you inheriting the methods of generic servlet also?
Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
right? Yep. See here, S1 is a servlet. Okay, S1 is a servlet and it is inheriting the properties of HTTP servlet. Okay, and then HTTP servlet is the one which is implementing the properties of generic servlet.
Right.
Right? If I'm implementing the generic servlet, then I can call,
Directly get servlet.
can I call as like this, get servlet context?
Yes.
Yes, if I call the get servlet context, then I'm going to get a context object easily.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay, we'll see another simple example. There is a called servlet config object, right? Config object is up to the
Servlet level.
that particular servlet only. Then how to get a servlet config object? Just
Get
call
servlet config.
exactly. I don't know. Maybe you guess blindly or
No, I got it because we are HTTP servlet internally implements that generic servlet, so we can directly access the methods.
yeah. See, to get a servlet config object, just call the servlet get servlet config object. So, do you have any method in generic servlet method like get servlet config? Yes, there is. This method is returning
Servlet
servlet
config object.
config object, right? So to get a servlet config object, just call the method in any servlet, wherever the servlet that you're using, just call the method called get servlet config so that you can get a config object. If you want a servlet context object, just call a get servlet context object. Okay, it is going to call by using inheritance, it is going to call the method in a generic servlet. Okay,
Yeah.
now see, so in the servlet context also there is a method called get request dispatcher. Okay, so instead of using the request, I'm using the context object at here. Okay. Let's try to use the include. Let me try to stop the server and start it once again. Come back to the browser. Just I'm using include method, right? Both should come. Yes, output of S1 servlet and output of S2 servlet. Are we getting both?
Yes.
Next, if you want the forward method, just change the method. Change the method and restart the server so that it will get forwarded to the second page, whichever you're trying to display the thing, but S2. So it will process and display only S2. It will forget about the S1. That's what the forward will do, right? So tell me now, how many ways to get a request dispatcher updated here?
2 ways.
So one is the request, another one is a
Context.
context, servlet context. Yeah. So I will stop the class. Yeah, Vijay.
Yeah, why they implemented like 2 ways? Is there any specific reason?
Yes, I will tell you about this and tomorrow. There is a reason behind
Okay.
like what is the difference between
Okay.
those two. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then any more doubts?